Ladies and gentlemen, the jewels of the Duchess of Windsor.
In Geneva, 1,500 people crowded into a circus tent for the greatest jewellery show on earth.
This is the most valuable private collection of jewels to be sold this century.
People have been coming from all over America and waiting 2 or 3 hours to get in.
At 2,600,000 against the telephone now. 2,700,000 on the telephone.
The first Duchess of Windsor sale was an unforgettable experience for everyone involved, and certainly a major highlight of my career. From the moment we announced the sale in January '87, we realised that the amount of press interest alone was going to be phenomenal from all over the world. I mean, it was unprecedented. From the first exhibition that took place at Sotheby's, New York, the queue was so great, it stretched around the entire block. The interest grew and grew and grew, so that actually the actual auction which took place in Geneva, there were hundreds of people in the marquee, connected to another sale room in Geneva, connected by satellite to another sale room in New York. I mean, it was extraordinary. It was the first time ever. It's still the highest value jewellery collection ever sold.
4,300,000 then, selling, sir, à juger.
The Windsor marriage and the abdication is described as one of the greatest romances of the 20th century. No man ever gave up so much for one woman. He gave up his throne and reigning basically over 2/3 of the world's population for her. And so on every possible anniversary, gifts would come, and they would very often be jewels. The Duchess's collection was a very personal one because on the whole she didn't like traditional and old-fashioned jewellery. She was considered to be an immensely stylish person, very much on the best dressed women's list, and similarly with the jewels. They were created specially for her by the Duke of Windsor. He ordered them, and of course they were living largely in Paris, and so there were lots of very interesting people around who could create very special and rather iconic pieces for her. Amongst the collection that you have on sale here, you've got two of her favourite pieces, which is the cross bracelet, which she almost always took with her, and also a rather special brooch with 2 X's on it, which was at the 20th anniversary. Those were her favourite jewels.
This July we announced that 20 of the lots from the original Duchess of Windsor sale in 1987 have been consigned for sale in London in November. Amongst them are several of the most key jewels from the collection. And a collection which, frankly, on any judgment must be considered, in my opinion anyway, the most important jewellery collection put together during the 20th century. This truly spectacular brooch quickly became the key jewel of the sale, and frankly, since the sale, has become emblematic of the greatest of 20th century jewels. It's realistic and yet at the same time abstract. It was made by Cartier in Paris in 1940, right at the beginning of the war. It was the fruit of this now famous collaboration between Jean Toussaint and Peter Le Marchand at Cartier. It's a wonderful thing. Jean Toussaint and Peter Le Marchand at Cartier were responsible also for creating the much celebrated Great Cat jewels, which appeared on the Cartier workshops from just after the Second World War. This example is in platinum, onyx and diamonds, and is an absolute tour de force of miniature engineering to be able to get a jewel to look so lifelike. I mean, it's really extraordinary. One of the most intimate and certainly one of the most popular jewels in the collection, judging by the number of times the Duchess has photographed throughout her life wearing it, is this extraordinary and charming bracelet of crosses, each one inscribed with an event in their lives together between 1934 and 1944. One that I find particularly charming, which just simply says King's Cross, which apocryphally was a time when, in early 1936, they were having a short fallout. The Duchess hails a taxi in London to take her by train north, and simply says King's Cross, and the taxi driver turned around and said, "I'm very sorry to hear it, ma'am," which I think is rather wonderful. This is so full of not only events in their life, but events that are central to a very important part of British history. One of the most whimsical and charming jewels in the sale is this little heart-shaped brooch made by Cartier in 1957 at a request or a commission from the Duke to commemorate their 20th wedding anniversary. Here we have the diamond heart, surmounted by a ruby set, ducal coronet, and the cipher of Wallace and Edward. It's a typical jewel of the collection, full of emotion, full of charm. One of the jewels which is perhaps the most interesting from a historical point of view is this gold cigarette case inscribed David from Wallace, Christmas 1935. And on the lid is a map of Europe, and it shows the 3 holiday voyages they made together in 1934, 1935 and 1936. It's a typical example of how they use jewellery to commemorate their relationship. And particularly poignant because the 1936 voyage, he made the historic decision to abdicate and marry Wallace. And I think it's possible to say without really any fear of contradiction, this is the jewellery collection of the 20th century.